Imagine exploring 6,000 years of human history, art, and culture, all packed onto one little island right in the middle of a city. Sounds kind of like a fantasy, right? Well, it's not. It's Berlin's Museum Island, and that's exactly where we're headed right now. And this all started with a pretty incredible vision way back in 1841. King Friedrich Wilhelm IV didn't just want to build a bunch of museums. His idea was to create a sanctuary, a special place where art and science would be open to everybody. I mean, think about that. For its time, that was a totally revolutionary concept, straight out of the Enlightenment.
So, what did that vision create? Well, people call it the Acropolis on the Spree. And that's a pretty perfect description, right? Just like the Acropolis in Athens was this high sacred place for temples, this island became the high point for culture in Berlin. And today, yep, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site with a solid 200 years of history behind it. And get this, look at that timeline. This wasn't some quick project. We're talking about a 100-year commitment from 1830 to 1930. Prussia's top architects, guys like Carl Friedrich Schinkel and Friedrich August Stüler, poured everything into creating this total work of art, a whole complex dedicated to cultures from all over the world. So what's the result of all that effort? Well, over 3 million people visit every single year. That number alone just shows you the incredible pull this place has. It draws people from literally all over the globe, all coming to see some of humanity's greatest treasures. Okay, so what are these treasures we're talking about? Let's do a quick tour of the 5 amazing museums that make this island what it is. So here's our little itinerary. We're going to start at the Altes Museum, then hit the Neues and the Alte Nationalgalerie, and we'll wrap things up at the Bode Museum and, of course, the famous Pergamon Museum. All right, first stop, the Altes Museum. This is the granddaddy of them all, the oldest one here, finished way back in 1830. And wow, that rotunda? It was directly inspired by the Pantheon in Rome, and it's just the perfect introduction to the incredible collection of Greek and Roman treasures inside. Okay, next up, you've got 2 totally different vibes right next to each other. In the Neues Museum, you'll find one of the most famous faces on the planet, the Bust of Nefertiti. And we'll get into it later, but that single piece raises some huge questions. Then, literally next door, you step into the Alte Nationalgalerie, which looks and feels just like a Roman temple. It's filled with absolutely stunning 19th century art. And this right here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. A museum island, the buildings are the art. The whole experience of walking up that majestic staircase, it was designed to make you feel like you're ascending into a temple of culture. It's just incredible. All right, let's round out our tour with the last 2. Tucked away at the very tip of the island, you've got the Bode Museum, which has this amazing collection of sculptures and Byzantine art. And then there's the big one, the Pergamon Museum. This place is famous not for little artifacts, but for bringing entire, massive, ancient buildings to Berlin. Yeah, you heard that right. But that brings up a really big question, How do you take a masterpiece from the 19th century and make it work for the 21st? Well, the answer is something huge and ambitious called the Museum Island Master Plan. And this is way more than just a fresh coat of paint. We're talking about completely rethinking the visitor experience from the ground up. The challenge is huge. How do you add all the modern stuff we need without messing with the historical soul of these 5 incredible buildings? Okay, so a massive piece of this puzzle is the Pergamon Museum. And yeah, this is a long-haul project. The whole museum actually closed down in late 2023. We'll get a little taste again in spring 2027 when they partially reopen the north wing. So you'll be able to see the Pergamon altar again, which is awesome. But the full grand vision, we're going to have to wait until 2037 for that. So you might be thinking, with the Pergamon closed for so long, what's the deal? And that's a totally fair question. It might seem like a huge bummer, but the master plan has already rolled out some really cool new ways to experience everything else on the island. So let's check out what they've already built. These are the modern additions that are already changing the game for visitors, really connecting the past to the future in a new way. Say hello to the James Simon Gallery. This place opened in 2019, and it's basically the island's brand new, super modern visitor center. Think of it as the new front door for everything. It's the one central spot where your whole journey begins. And this building totally changes how you get around. You start here at the gallery, And then you head downstairs into this incredible underground walkway. They call it the Archaeological Promenade, and it connects you to 4 of the 5 museums. It's brilliant, totally seamless, you're out of the weather, and it's all completely accessible. But here's the cool part. This promenade isn't just a hallway. People are calling it the 6th museum for a reason. It's actually an exhibition space all on its own, and it's designed to cleverly connect the dots between collections that used to be totally separate. It's a really smart idea. Okay, so let's get practical. If you're actually planning a visit sometime soon, say in 2026, what do you really need to know before you go? Let's break it down. All right, first thing, the island is in the middle of a huge 200th anniversary celebration that's running for 5 years. Each year, a different museum is in the spotlight, and 2026 is the Alte Nationalgalerie's turn. Now, even with the main Pergamon Museum closed, you can still check out the Pergamon das Panorama exhibit nearby, so you won't totally miss out. For tickets, the Berlin Welcome Card is probably your best bet. It covers admission and public transit. And here's a pro tip. Special exhibits almost always need a separate ticket, so make sure you check that beforehand. So as we wrap this up, it's pretty clear that Museum Island is so much more than just a bunch of pretty things in glass cases. I mean, when you're standing there looking at an artifact like the Bust of Nefertiti, you can't help but think about how far it is from home. It brings up this whole idea of the universal museum, this notion that some treasures belong to everyone. But it also forces you to ask some really tough questions, right? This place isn't just a quiet home for the past. It's a living, breathing space that sparks some of the most important conversations we need to have about our future.